the Know Your Gear podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, March 27th. It's March 27th, 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I hope everybody is having a good week and is ready to talk about some guitars and some guitar-related subjects. It's funny, my tuner battery is dying. So anyways, just started flashing at me. I'm like, why is it flashing at me? Anyways, I hope everybody had a fantastic week. I have a bunch of topics and questions already sent to me, and of course, I saw some early questions come in as well. So if you guys have a question, please put the question mark at the beginning so I know it's addressed to me. If it's a topic or a question, doesn't matter. Just lets me see it and kind of take notice to it, and whether or not you're talking to me or just talking amongst yourselves. So let's get into it. Let's get into the first question I saw, which was for Phil. It was for me. And it says, what are the pros and cons of a reverse headstock? Pros and cons. In my experience, if it's a Floyd Rose locking nut, I have had no negative experiences with a reverse headstock guitar. In fact, I kind of dig it. And my Nuno has a reverse headstock. I think I'm looking real quick. I thought I owned another guitar with a reverse headstock. I was pretty sure I do. I think it's like a Kiesel or something. But I will tell you that without a locking nut, without a locking mechanism, I'm not a big fan of reverse headstocks as a whole. They tend to ring out for too much for me. Now, if you have a Fender one that has string trees, I think the string trees kind of dampen it. But I always find that I need some kind of dampener or something to go over the strings. I think it's just because, the low E and the A are just, so long over the headstock. They just ring when I'm playing. So whenever I mute, I just feel it ringing extra loud. That's the negative. If that's something you're dealing with, most players won't notice it if they're not hitting it, aggressively, because get the body shaking and the neck shaking. Some people say it has added sustain. I don't know about that. I don't know anything other than, like I said, in some reverse headstocks I like, and some I don't. And it's just always about whether or not it's ringing out or not. I had Kiesel prototype me a reverse headstock guitar for something, and I just did not dig it. I did not bond with it at all. So that's the negative, in my opinion. But look-wise, I think it looks cool. I don't know why. It appeals to me so much. And then the other question he had was, what is your thoughts on using emery cloth flexible sandpaper for rounding fretboard edges, sanding I'm not a big fan of that. I did a video where I show you how to round a fretboard edge. And what's funny is, you never know where a video is going to take you when you make a video like that. I didn't want to make that video. That was a request from the audience, and it was just a video. I didn't see the upside of making it, just being very, transparent with you guys. I was like, I don't know how many people are going to be interested in this, so I made it. What I didn't know was I have had two manufacturers, specifically one more so, but two, reach out and say they watched it, and now that's how they do it. That's how they round the fretboards, which is funny because I told both of them the same thing I'm going to tell you, which is I learned it from another manufacturer. I watched another manufacturer round a fretboard edge with a razor blade, and I was like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. Or at least that's how they were doing it, and it looked really good. So I'm not a big fan of crushing or sanding the fretboard edge. Again, everybody's mileage may vary. There's all kinds of techniques that work. It's just, I find that method, basically scraping and rounding, is very precise. And here's what I don't like, and I've never tried this technique with whatever this emery rope is, but I'm not a fan of anything I don't have 100% control of while I'm doing it. So that's why I like stuff where it's very I can hold it on both sides, or I know when I'm moving it, I learn over time, like muscle memory, the process to do it. I don't like just kind of, hodgepodge, just doing it with your, like a sanding motion. It's not really my forte. Now, I do use sandpaper when I finish the round out, but that's not to shape it. That's just to smooth out any of the scrape marks that you've maybe created with the razor blade. So that's the way I like doing it. In fact, I just recently scraped a bound fretboard edge on a Gibson. It was really harsh and sharp on the edge, so I just rounded it over. Took me a few seconds, and I always tell people my best advice for that, if you watch that video, besides all the safety advice, take all the safety measures, is a little goes a long way. Everybody thinks that the fretboard should be rolled over like a round, like, you know, and it's not. It shouldn't be super round. It just shouldn't be harsh. It's most fretboards that feel nice are just very subtly rounded, very subtle. That's why I said you don't have to make this harder than it has to be. And I think I mentioned this on the 75th anniversary Ultra 2 Telecaster. It looks like, because it has a rounded fretboard edge, it looks like they use something like a screwdriver to crush it. Because I've seen people who have used the method of crushing, right? And I think it came from, believe it or not, I think it came from a manufacturer or somebody who was doing furniture, and they were showing you how to round it using a crushing technique. And I did not like it. Here's why I don't like it. Because I've seen many guitars now where I know somebody did that, because like I said, there's a waver in it. And here's what happens. It doesn't happen right when you do it. It happens over time. And I think I look at things a little differently, and it's because of, everybody's going to filter the situation through their life experience. Not only do I have this like repair experience, repairing stuff, I also have a buying experience. And I mean, not just buying for myself, I mean buying for a store. Obviously I was buying all the time. And when you're taking in trades and buys, and you have to go over certain guitars, especially when they're expensive. And I got to tell you, we've never probably ever talked about this, but believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there who do the same damn things to guitars over and over again. And what I mean by that is everyone's got their go-to to do to a guitar, and that devalues the guitar. And so when you become a retailer and you have to take guitars on trade, you get really dialed in, usually through all the mistakes. Like, oh, I can't believe I paid for that, and now I've discovered this thing with it. You start knowing what to look for, what people do to their guitars. Changing pickups, absolutely, it just is a thing. Like I said, we never had a single, and it's just a fluke, I'm sure. I bet you could talk to 10 other dealers who didn't have this experience like us, but we never had a single John Mayer Stratocaster ever come in on trade and actually had was it the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper pickups? It's whatever it is. I think it's the Big Dipper pickups in them every time. And I think every time the customer, I think honestly, one customer in particular, in this one customer's case, I think they were truly shocked. They bought it secondhand as well. And they were shocked two ways. One, they were shocked that I was going to pull the pick guard and look. And then when I looked and we're like, those aren't the original pickups. And that's the big thing, because Fender wouldn't sell the John Mayer pickups independently. They would only be in the guitar. So of course, people who bought those guitars yanked them. So you start getting used to what people do with guitars. They swap pickups. They try to modify them, like crushing the fretboard edges, to round them over. And then over time, you'd see this. You always, like I said, it takes time, but eventually you will see this wavering. And just to give you an idea, when I did the Ultra 3 Tele, even though I'm using those cameras and even though I'm there and it's very detailed and I spent hours with the guitar, I missed it. I didn't even see it. How I discovered it was a couple days later. I was looking at the edge. It's too late, obviously, to put it in the video now. But and I kind of like, it's one of those things like, I was so mad at myself for missing it. Because it would have been a great illustration. I'll probably use it in the future to show you guys. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just a very subtle ripple in the wood, where it's not smooth, and it's definitely from that technique. And so, like I said, there's tons of things. A lot of times, you'll see a lot of people who have, especially if you're dealing with any kind of high dollar guitars, they've removed the tuning keys, put aftermarket tuning keys, and then when they're selling it, they put the originals back. This is why I started when we started doing the channel with the Sharpen My Axis, the whole theory of that. And in fact, going forward now with all of the deep dives, in the breakdown videos, is to show you guys modifications you can make that I call are non-marring. In other words, you can put the modification in place and remove it, and you've never damaged the instrument in a way. It's because you don't realize it, but when you're talking about high dollar guitars and somebody's put, you look at it and you go, well, people are notorious for yanking these particular, like I'm talking about a certain model. I'll be like, somebody's notorious for yanking the tuners out. You pull the tuner out and they've reamed the hole out bigger, and that's a big deal, and they don't know how to fill it correctly, because you have to fill those back in. Otherwise, you're going to find that your guitar doesn't stay in tune because your tuner it's not secure into the wood. It's floating almost, and it's basically being clamshelled together, clamped in by the nut on top. And that's great because when you're wrenching it down, except for two things happen. And this is why we worry about them when we take the guitars on trade. One, that compression this way works, but obviously when the strings are pulling this way, it starts shifting the tuning key, and it does it over time. And you're like, why is my guitar going out of tune? Oh, I tightened it up again. Why is it going out of tune? It's because the force is now moving it because the shaft is basically floating in this hole. The other thing that happens is that when you try to force them by compressing them, by turning the nut, tightening the nut, that extra force will sometimes result in two big problems. One, a crack in the finish because just the pressure starts crushing the finish, and then you get micro cracks, and then all it takes is one, just like a vein, just goes, and now you have a little crack on your headstock. The other thing that happens that's problematic is that not only does that crushing effect cause that, sometimes you'll get a split in the wood. And a lot of people have seen that where you look at the base of the headstock and you see a crack from the tuning key coming out to the base of headstock. And you think, oh, what hit that? And it sometimes not hitting it. It's just that somebody reamed out the hole or drilled out the hole bigger and then put the tuning key in, either the new one or the old one, and it's not filling in the entire hole. And to compensate, they have crushed it by tightening it too tight. So you learn. Another big thing that we notice a lot is, and that's why when you're looking at used guitars, one of the things I like to do the absolute most is use your finger to touch all of the screws on the top, the heads of the screws, and feel for barbs or chips where somebody's used the wrong screwdriver head. And the reason why is, one, that's a tell that somebody's been inside the guitar, so that tells you maybe you want to look inside the guitar. And some of you guys are probably going, yeah, isn't this a little excessive? Look, it can be, but when you're talking about a guitar, you got to understand when I'm talking about when you're taking it in trade, it's not so much you're even worried about getting screwed, you are, but you also have to try to give the customer the best amount of money you can. And sometimes, even though some dealers, like Guitar Center, gets to give you half of what you sell it for, if you've been to mom and pop, sometimes they try for half, but sometimes you can't make the deal. And if somebody came in the store and they got a Strat, I'm just picking on a Strat real easy, and it sells for $1,000, they're not going to take $5. And I'm like, and if I pay $7 and then I only get $8, I mean, that's a tough flip, right? So that's why I said you want to make sure that you inspect the guitar clearly. And the other thing too that we're looking for when we're looking at screws is if you over tighten them. In fact, that's a real thing that happens a lot. People over tighten the Phillips head screws on pick guards all the time, and that's what causes the pick guards to warp. That downward pressure, they're not designed to put so much pressure down on them. In fact, you can kind of see a ripple effect in pick guards all the time. And whether you realize it or not, when you get new guitars, you'll notice they're almost never like that because the factory knows how much pressure to tighten the screw down. Everybody else is just going to go until it stops. And then one more turn. Yeah. So that's my point, is that's the things you want to look for when you're doing that stuff. And all that from talking about rounding the fretboard edge, right? I'm trying to think if there's any other biggies that we're always looking for, that you always look for. There's a lot of, that's why I never did vintage guitars, but of course, unfortunately, some things become vintage guitars. Like I said, you don't have to talk, they're not talking about a Gibson Les Paul or a Strat from the 60s or 50s, but vintage could just be, a guitar that has more value now that it's 20 years old or 30 years old. And like I said, and people are also notorious for yanking out things that are really expensive out of guitars. It's just the stuff they pull. I don't know, man. And what's worse is sometimes people pull it on someone who bought it unexpectedly, and now they're going to be the victim too. And so they're transferring their victimhood to you because they bought a bad thing. And if you don't do your diligence, now you bought the bad thing from them. Now, good news for them is they're no longer going to be a victim of the problem, but you are, and that's why you want to be diligent and learn all the little tricks and tips that they do. It's why I refuse to buy anything from someone who says, I don't know anything about this guitar, I'm just selling it for a friend. And we would get that in the store, and that was always a very tricky thing because that is the fastest way somebody can play oh, well, I didn't know. I don't know anything about it. So, when you go, hey, did you know that this is a Squire body on an American standard neck with, this is not by the way, that's a thing that actually happened at our store. People stuck American fender necks on Squire bodies that were Squire components, Squire pickups and everything, and came in and tried to sell them or trade them to us. It happens quite a bit, actually, more than you would think. And a lot of times you'd be like, hey, this is actually all Squire. And they're like, oh, I don't know anything about guitars. I'm just here for my friend. So that's kind of funny. But there you go. Okay, let's go to the next one. What's the next one? The next one was from David. He says, hey, if you want to test a new guitar to get the feel for whether it works for you, but there are none of that model available locally, what is the etiquette for ordering from online retailer with the possibility you'll want to return it if you don't love it? It seems unfair to the retailer to have to sell an open box guitar, but problematic not to be able to play the guitar before buying. So this goes into my saying that I love, which is we used to try before we buy and now we buy before we try. That was not something I invented as a saying. What happened was when I opened my store, I went and I sought out advice from other retailers. And I remember specifically a retailer, the first one, it was Dennis who owned the Bass Place, a store I absolutely love. And he said to me, I was like, what kind of return policy? Because that's what I was like, hey, I'm opening a store. And I went to mostly people I bought a lot of stuff from. And that wasn't super close to my store. They were on the other side of town and we went to another state because, that's a good thing you do. I did it when I on YouTube, by the way. When I started my YouTube channel and I started doing well with it, I would seek out mentors immediately. Like, how have you navigated this? What am I looking at? And I remember Dennis at the Bass Place said, I said, hey, what kind of return policy should I offer? And he goes, no, they try before they buy. So it's theirs when they leave the store. And I was like, oh. I was like, oh, okay. Except for, I think, unfortunately, that is more of an old school way of thinking for stores. So that wasn't going to work because the problem with, who cares if you have a policy if you have to violate it every 5 seconds, because as soon as you tell somebody the policy, they're going to yell at you and they're going to fight you. And, and there's time and then there's also money you can lose. You can't have customers in your store while another customer is screaming about how you won't give their money back. It's not going to fly. So that's why I always say we used to try before we buy because that's how it worked. And a lot of stores didn't have return policies. A lot of people don't remember that. In fact, what was I just talking about recently? And I forgot to mention that the store I was talking about didn't have a return policy. If I remember it, I'll tell you guys, but it was just recent in the last couple of episodes when I was talking about a store and somebody said something like, I would have returned it. And I'm like, no, there was no return policy. So there are still music stores with almost zero return policy. So that being said, you're right. We now buy before we try. So we have to buy it in most cases, especially online, to get it and try it. Here's what I can tell you. I've had conversations with both Guitar Center and Sweetwater. Now, mom and pops are a lot different. I'll touch on that. They understand that's part of the game, and Amazon's made that a much bigger problem, much faster for everybody, which is because Amazon's like effortless just return. It's like Walmart, just you walk back in and you're like, I haven't returned anything in Walmart in probably 20 years, so I don't know what it's like now, but I remember like you just walk in and you'd be like, I don't have a receipt. I'm not even sure if I bought it here, and they would just take it. But anyways, they know that's just part of the game is the return process. Okay. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. Where you do come into play is, small mom and pop shops. So I'll tell you what I do personally. I'm not giving you advice to do this yourself. I'm just going to let you know how I do it. If I know I want something, or I'm pretty convinced that I know I want it and I'm not in the gray area, like in other words, like I already, let's say I have it already, I just want this one in another color, whatever it is, or it's something I'm very familiar with, especially like an amplifier where I've played the amplifier, now I know I want it. If I know I want it, I will just now try to source the best deal for me. And sometimes that could be cost, but sometimes that could just be how fast it's going to get to me. So if there's a store in California versus New York, I'll pick the California store because I get it in a day and versus a week. And more importantly, just it's more time that can give you damage in shipping. But if I know there's a product I want, I'll reach out. And like I said, I'll ask if there's a deal, or I'll talk to them, negotiate a little bit. Hey, any can you get your tax out the door? Or can you 10% off? Whatever the deal is. When I don't know, I don't ever really focus on the discount because I just believe that you don't want to ask for too many favors in a purchase. I know you're the customer and you're really not asking for any favors and really the service is to you, but I'm just telling you how I think about it. I think, okay, I want this guitar, but I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I really want it. I really want to try it first. And if I don't love it, I'd really not like to be on the hang for this because it's very expensive and I know it's going to take a huge hit. In other words, it's something you buy for $1,500 and it's going to be worth $7 the second you decide you don't want it. And that's a lot of money to lose, $700. So what I'll do is I won't focus on the discount because not that I think they even care. I just don't do that. I pay the full price because my logic is I'd rather when I call back and saying, hey, I bought this. I don't love it. I want to return it. I don't have to like pretend in my head. I pretend they're going, oh, great. This is the guy who, grinded this for 10% and now he wants to send it back. See, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the two things guy that ask for too much stuff. So I try not to do that. But if I really think it's something that I'm in the gray area about, and like you said, you got to touch it. You're not even sure you want it. As much as I like to support mom and pops, and I do, majority of my stuff still comes from mom and pops. I definitely go to Guitar Center and Sweetwater for that. It's so effortless. Guitar Center is the easiest, by the way, because you can buy anything online and just walk it right back in the store. And that's not even return shipping at that point. You don't even have to have the original. Well, if it's new, I think you have to have original box and packaging, but I don't even know. I've never gotten any crap for returning anything at a Guitar Center. However, I have had friends who had it crap. They've told me stories. I talked about one or two on this podcast. And what's funny about that story, even though it was at least 5 years ago, okay, when I told that story about a friend who was getting some grief at a Guitar Center, somebody at Guitar Center stopped me at a PRS event once and asked me what store that was. And when it happened, and I told them, and so they were like, okay. So it was very apparent the Guitar Center was shocked to hear that there was a problem like that too. But my point is, usually the return is no problem. I've returned a few things to Sweetwater. I've returned way more to Guitar Center, but I will tell you this, and I told you guys that I'm going to be meeting with Gabe, the CEO, again to talk about where they are now versus a year ago when I had the podcast with him, and I have a lot of notes to talk to him about. But one of the things that I was taking note of is I've spent more at Guitar Center in the last year than I have in the last 10 years before that. And I was thinking about that, how strange that is. And I was like, yeah, why is that? And I don't mean I'm spending that much more. I mean, I'm just, my shopping has kind of pointed towards Guitar Center a little bit more than normal. I'm still buying from Mom and Pop, still buying from Sweetwater, but still to Guitar Center more. And I have to tell you, when I was looking, because I went through my personal account with Guitar Center, and it was because I'm buying a lot of used gear, and I like the idea that I can just return it if there's any problems. In fact, I just recently returned an amp to Guitar Center. There was no problems. I walked in and I said, I bought this amp. There's no problems with it. I just don't love it. That's all. And in all fairness, so you don't have to do this, but to me, in my mind, sometimes the money is already spent. So I returned it, and then I was in there, and I should do the shout out. It was the Tempe Guitar Center. I had two great experiences at Guitar Center last week. One is at the Phoenix store off Peoria Road. Fantastic experience with them. I just want to say shout out to them. And then I had a really great experience at the Tempe store. I think it was yesterday. Might have been 2 days ago. I don't remember. When I went, I had returned an amp that I didn't buy from that store, but I returned an amp and just said, hey, I'm not loving it. And then they were so nice. I was like, like any customer, I'm like, well, let me mosey around the store. And so I bought a pedal and an amp. Do I have the pedal? I don't even have the pedal here. So I bought a pedal and an amp. So, I spent probably about $100, maybe $130 more than I had originally spent. So that netted them up $100 from the last sale I made. So basically, this is my long way of saying this. I wouldn't worry about returning things. You have to try them. It is a lot of money, especially now. I will tell you that a conversation I've also had with a lot of stores, not just the big guys, but the big guys are echoing this. Returns are, I don't want to say at an all-time high, but returns are way higher. This is the year has had the highest amount of returns. And everyone says the same thing to me when I'm discussing it with them, which is, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. How would I wouldn't know? But I gave him my theory, and it's just that. I just pulled it from my ass theory, and it's, I think what happens is that when you're at the top end of your spending price point, you're going to scrutinize the purchase more. That's what I told him. That's what I feel has happened. They've inflated us to a point where if I don't feel great, I just can't justify the purchase anymore. And it's not about whether I can afford it or not. It's about how I feel about it. And it's like, I felt like this was the most I should absolutely pay for this product. And now I'm feeling like I don't love it. So it's hard. So yeah. All right. Oh, that's cool. Cool guy Z says, hey, I actually grew up going to Phil's old store in Chandler and Dobson. That's awesome. I love it. It's a little weird for me now because, the store opened in 2004 and I keep running into people. In fact, I think I told you guys the story. We just had dinner a couple weeks ago with a student of our store who started when he was 11 years old. He's 31 now. He's a electrical engineer and he's getting married, and he invited us to his wedding, and it was exciting because it was exciting for me because not only was it always great to see an old face, even though it's a young old face. He's a young old face. It was cool because he's like, hey, you want to come have a beer? And I haven't had any beer since August, so I was like, oh yes. I told Sean, I go, well, I can't turn down the beer now. That's just, I can't be rude. I don't want to be rude. So it was nice. I had a nice cold beer. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I don't know how to explain. It was like getting sunlight after years of darkness. It was amazing. So it's always great when I get to meet. I bump into people that used to go to the store a long time ago. Okay, let's. This is a good comment. It says, with prices as high as they are, that's why returns are high. The guitars need to be perfect. What's funny about that is I find now that, and when I do the breakdown videos and I take apart a guitar and I scrutinize it, I can see in the process so 2019, okay, prior 2019, where I was scrutinizing pretty hard, okay? So I was like, oh, look at this, or oh, look at that. And I was really on it. And then I mentioned this many times during COVID, I laxed up some of the scrutiny. And of course, I disclosed that to you because of the fact that employees were working super hard. The sales were off the charts and things were getting through. And I even made the comment that the new, in a grade, it's like a grading on a curve. The new C plus is, the A is now a C plus, or vice versa, right? A C plus is now an A during COVID because it's just, you were constantly seeing problems. Every guitar had an issue during COVID. And so I was like, I was still pointing them out, but it's not, I've learned with making videos, it's not whether I point it out or not, it's what I say when I point it out. I can really change the narrative, whether I intend to or not, with just a comment. Oh, if I say, oh, yuck, or versus oh, okay, well, this happens, my mannerisms can change the way the comment sections go real fast. And so you guys know, I'm not just guessing, we've seen it. We've actually seen it many times over, where just in a slight adjustment and how I react to it changes how you guys react to it. And now what's funny is I'm back to, I think I'm actually being aggressively scrutinizing again. And the last couple of videos, I've been just telling you, I run them by my wife and I go, is this too much? Am I hitting them too hard? Was this too mean? Is this too much? And she's like, no. And I told her, I said, here's why. I feel like exactly that comment. Everything is so freaking expensive that if I was someone looking to honestly spend my hard-earned money on this, I'd want to know every single possible problem, even if that means that when you get barrage of so many little issues, some people are going to say, why are you being picky? Some people, which they do in the comments all the time, and some people are going to go, oh, I was really interested in it, but now that he's mentioned so many things, I'm not interested. And I really hate that, I'm talking somebody out of something they might want. But I would really hate the latter, which is that you buy it and then you go, wow, I wish I would have known, I wish you would have pointed this out with it. So I find I'm being more aggressive because everything's so expensive. I'm in constant shock at the pricing, like you guys are. So, and I'm also constantly in shock that guitars, when sent to me by companies, they flat out given me the spec sheet and the price. And by the time I put the video out, like a month or two later, the price has changed. So it's crazy. Everything's going up so fast. So it takes the fun out of everything when it's just a pummeling like that. Thank you. Somebody was saying that they appreciate that I focus on or think about how my words affect things. Yeah. It's tough. Like I said, you want to be as fair as you can when you're doing content like this because you'll see. I have a video. There's 2 videos coming, and one video I felt so bad. I'm just going to tell you right now, and it ended up being positive. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this video because it was so, I want to say so bad that I reached out to the company. Now, this is not new for me. I've mentioned this to you guys before. As you guys know, when I found the issues with the Kaizen, I reached out to Music Man. And whenever I do a video, Music Man was not sponsored, so it has nothing to do with sponsored. I've done it when it's not sponsored. In fact, most of the time, they're not sponsored that I'm reaching out to them. I've learned that it's essentially, I'm thinking of it like a hit piece. I'm going to put a video out and they're going to wake up one morning and getting emails from people going, did you see what this guy said? What he's showing? See this horrible thing? And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, look, I'm not having a great experience. And just to be, again, transparent with you guys, the reason I reached out to them was they have a plethora of YouTubers saying this is the greatest thing since ever. And I mean, I only know this not because I went and looked at those videos. It's on their website. Like it's a who's who of YouTubers going, greatest ever. This is amazing. How did they do it? And I had the opposite experience of that. And I have 2 samples, and those 2 samples are doing the same problem. And here's to their credit, which will be in the video, which is what I did with Music Man, is like give them that opportunity to give you their side of it. And their side, which you'll see in the video, is they are going to focus on correcting it, and they gave me the fix, what they think is going to correct the issue going forward. Unfortunately, I don't have that guitar, whatever the fixed version, so you're just going to see what you're going to see, but at least they're acknowledging that, yes, okay, we will work on this. And, I mean, it's a great, and to you guys, and I'll get off this part of this, but to you guys, sometimes I think you guys will appreciate that, but sometimes people are like, well, that's just what they're saying. But as I've mentioned many times, I mostly get the opposite. I tell the company, and then I'm shadow banned from everything from now on. Like they don't want to talk to me ever again. So I don't know. So it's good. All right, next subject. Let's go to the next subject. This one came in, and this one came from Chris. Whoops, where's it at? Amanda sent it to me, and I got it. So I want to thank Amanda for make sure I don't miss it, but I already got it from Christian. Christian said, hey, Phil, I'm not going to be able to make the podcast, but I wanted to ask. I like that he put the number 2 to ask. It's funny. Something that has been bugging me for a while. Okay. Why don't any other companies try and compete with TC Electronics? The Thrust BQ 500 watt compact bass head, light and $179. Why don't Monoprice try to compete? Sure. Okay, let me explain. I can give you some insight of why that is the case. Okay, now when I say why, it's very, very clear. We always want to do disclaimers. Sometimes I'm going to give you some inside information, something I know. That's not what's happening in this case. I'm going to give you my theory on what I think is actively happening with my knowledge of this part of the business world arena. So I'm going to pull up that amp, if you don't mind. Yeah, it is a smoking deal. Okay, so let's pull it up. Let me just tell you what I think is going on. First of all, whether you realize it or not, Christian, TC Electronics, I'm trying to center up so you can see it. TC Electronics is owned by Behringer. Okay, Behringer acquired TC Electronics a few years back, and why that matters is because of a couple things. First thing is Behringer and Guitar Center no like each other. Okay, so these products now that Behringer and Guitar Center don't get along, whatever that reason is, which there's two versions of the story. Guitar Center told the version and Behringer tells the version. You can go read them if you want. The Reader's Digest is Guitar Center said they didn't want Behringer products anymore, and Behringer said they didn't pay their bills. There, you don't have to look it up. I just gave you the version, but you can read the in-depth versions because it was really funny they were actually fighting. By the way, on a side third thing to say, Sweetwater actually came out and said, we've never had a problem with Behringer. They're great, which was weird to see them get into this mess because it was Guitar Center and Behringer like posting publicly, about each other, and then Sweetwater's like, we think Behringer's great. The reason I'm telling you this, Christian, is because that means that TC Electronics is obviously available in some mom and pops, and you can find those as well. But keep in mind, it's mostly going to be available at Sweetwater. So when you see that it's back order right here, here's what I'm going to tell you. It says, see where it says we expect more TC Electronics soon, and by April 10th, you need to buy this thing, okay? What you think is happening is not happening. You think that they're not getting stock. They're absolutely getting stock. What's happening is they're not getting enough stock. Sweetwater sells a lot of stuff, and when there's no competition, which really that's what that means, there's no big online competition. So you got to understand, it's probably sold at very few places, maybe Amazon. I mean, think of this. I would imagine TC is mostly sold where you see Behringer sold now, which is Amazon, AliExpress, I think, Tolman, Sweetwater, and then of course Behringer and TC. I don't know if TC does direct, but and there might be some mom and pops. I haven't seen any mom and pops with TC, so if any of the mom and pop shops are watching this, if you could just post in the comments, yes, we carry TC Electronics. Brian will look for you and then repost it to me so I can look for it, and I'll respond to that. Anyways, my point is two things. One, you have Behringer, who's the king of making affordable, cheap stuff. So if you're monoprice, those guys are tiny. All these guys are tiny compared to Behringer. I can't imagine there's anyone bigger in the world at making cheap stuff as a brand. I mean, the Behringer, have you seen the Behringer factory? It's insane, right? It's like 18 football fields. I'm exaggerating, but it's like this thing. I saw a picture of it and it just looked ridiculous, right? I think it was like 4 times bigger than the Cort factory, what I saw. So if you're out there, going to try to make a competitive product for TC, you're also competing with Behringer if you're affordable. And how are you going to beat Behringer at being affordable? $179. I mean, let's look at this thing again. What you have is a 500 watt solid state, or it's not solid state, it's a Class D, I believe, Class D power amp with headphone jack and graphic EQ, the whole 9 yards, with a brand name on it, because of course they own a brand name, for $179. This is ridiculous, right? A 500 watt bass head that's ultra light for under $200. I mean, you're not going to beat that. Who's going to beat that? And then, like you said, why doesn't Monoprice, those guys, knock it off? Well, because TC Electronics is a brand name. So you would expect, and I'm just guessing, because I would expect, that if it didn't say TC Electronics, it said Monoprice, you're going to pay $179? No. Right? $159? Maybe. Probably $129. So they got to beat them by a lot. And my guess is that Behringer's got the price down super, super low because they have that volume and the ability to build them. So I would definitely, my recommendation, look, back to we were talking about return policies. You know what? You can buy it from Sweetwater. You can return it, if it's not defective and you get something from Sweetwater, I can't tell you how all Sweetwater reps take care of you. I will tell you how my Sweetwater rep takes care of me when I get something, I don't love it, and I want to send it back. They send me a label, okay? And if it's not defective, there's nothing wrong. They charge you the return shipping or the shipping. I think the return shipping. They charge the return shipping. But he will usually waive that for me because I buy something else, okay? So I'll go, hey, in other words, I keep the money in-house. I go, hey, by the way, I want to return this, and then I just find something else to buy. Like you, I usually buy something like, in fact, I just recently, there was a speaker that I didn't want, so I canceled it, and I said, hey, put that money into a pedal and ship the pedal to me. So, sometimes it's like that. But I would say the problem is twofold. It's the Behringer Mighty Might, or the mighty girth of Behringer's power that all the knockoff guys don't want to go against it. And also, you have to understand you have very few suppliers for this, or sellers for this, so you need to order it. You need to pre-order it. I have learned being at Sweetwater in-depthly. As you know, I went to one time I spent 8 days there straight, and I was there 24/7 going through all their stuff. And I can tell you, the one thing, I guarantee you, no matter how you feel about 55-point inspections, all the things, whatever you think Sweetwater, so those of you who have conspiracy theories, whatever you think Sweetwater's lying about, one thing they're not lying about, most of their stuff, okay, that's far-fetched, a huge percentage of their stuff is sold before it ever lands all the time. They're in perpetual back order all the time. And if you don't understand why, I can't talk about TC because I don't know them, but I can tell you that I'm just not exaggerating. I was just explaining this to the Guitar Center guys. There is allocations. Everybody knows there's allocations. So in particular guitar I was talking about, I happen to know, so I'm not saying the guitar, so I'm clear to say this. I happen to know the Guitar Center got 109 of them, okay? And I was mentioning the Guitar Center, like, oh, you got 109 of these? And they said, yes. And I said, okay. And I said, that would mean, in my experience, that Sweetwater got half that, so 50. And then the mom and pop network, all of it across the country, probably got 50. And then the European market probably got 60. And then I was like, okay, so if you're doing that math, there's only, 260, 269 of them in existence. So I go, maybe 300 tops is what they're going to manufacture. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you is that you think like, well, why is Sweetwater perpetually in back order? Why don't they order more? You don't understand, you can't. See, part of the things that the dealer networks, as a dealer, I can tell you this for a fact, I would order 20 of something and they go, you could have 2 because my store was too small. And because they allocate sometimes by the reps, their territories, sometimes they buy regions in the country, and then of course they buy buying power. And the reason they do that, the manufacturers do that, it's actually really smart because otherwise, you know exactly what happened. Dealers suck up all the stuff. Sweetwater, what stops Sweetwater? Like 300 guitars? Sweetwater could order that. And go, oh, we'll have them all. We're exclusive. We don't have to, right? That's the problem with big buyers like that is they can suck it all up. And that's not good for the manufacturers because what happens is the more you which is what's happening now with basically Sweetwater and Guitar Center owning 50% of the guitar market in the United States, what you're having a problem is that eventually when your customer becomes that big, your customer starts dictating to you. I'm not saying they are right now. I'm just saying, because I don't know anything specific, no details to share, but I'm going to say they can come to you and say, I don't think that's the price anymore. And I don't think it's right. So that's why it's parceled out like that. So that's my advice on how to get it. And that's my thoughts on why no one's competing with it. But that's a great product. Like I said, put it on order. I think it's not a huge amount of dough to do. It's worth a shot. What can go wrong? Amanda sent me this one from Robert. It says, hey, thoughts on Benson amps? I don't know anything about them. I looked at them online many times, and they're one of those amps where I'm like, okay, and I listened to some sound samples, and I'm not sure what I'm listening to. Sounds like, to me, maybe it's like a Marshall, I thought I remember, like a Marshall thing. Don't know much about them. I spent a long time, not Benson specifically, I've never talked to those guys, but for a while, I'd reach out to a lot of amp companies and go, hey, let's get some more amps. I'd like to try more things and share them with the audience. And I very rarely found anybody interested in them, in doing that. But maybe we'll reach out again. But I hear good things about Benson's, but I've never physically been in contact with one ever, and never heard one personally. Okay. I don't understand. Okay, hold on a second. I want to match my EMG Tele neck pickup with an 81X using a 3-way switch. Have the 81 be a single coil in the middle position. Is this going to be balanced? I don't know. Is the 81X, is that the coils? I thought the 81TW was the coil split. Is the EMG 81X coil splittable? EMG 81X. Let's take a look at it. Of course. Does it say active pickup fueled by high gain, 40 years, blah, blah, everything you love about the 81, the power, the crunch, the sustain, improved greater clarity, headroom, high gain, lovers, Sweetwater, blah, blah, blah. 81X is for more open voice while retaining the original character. So, no, you can't coil. As far as what I'm reading, this is not one you can coil split. I believe the only one you can coil split is the TWs. 81TW. Let's pull this up. By the way, since I didn't share with you guys, I don't know why I didn't share with you. This is the 81TW, and yep, coil splitting. So that's what you would need if you want to coil split it. So then your question then becomes, can it be a single coil in the middle position? Sure. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can coil split it and do whatever you want with it. Wire it up however you like. But you need the TW. So I wonder what TW stands for. Does it say? Now I'm curious. TW. Because I don't know why I remember it. Isn't that funny? I remember that, but I don't instinctively know what TW implies. That what makes me, other than I've installed them. Actually, what's funny is, to just tell you the funny story, I've deinstalled more TW EMG pickups than I've installed. So I have put in a couple in guitars for customers, but I've actually removed more from customers saying this doesn't sound as good as the actual 81 or the 85s. So, just letting you know, it's kind of funny. Okay. I'm going to say Toogie. Toogie says, hey, the tone knob on my RG550 is acting like a volume knob after I swapped the pickups. What did you do wrong? If it's acting like a volume knob, then you wired it up like a volume knob. Because the thing to remember is there's no tone knob or volume knob, right? You have a potentiometer, in your case, a 500K one, and then how you set it up. In other words, there's 3 lugs, right? So we'll keep it simple, and I don't need any graphics for this. 3 lugs, and essentially what you're going to have is if you're looking at it, I'm trying to think the best way to look at it. If you have the potentiometer facing you like this, the 3 lugs are facing you to the left. The left one will be your input. You're going to be putting the signal into it, which is coming from your switch or your pickups. The middle one is going out to your output jack. And then the right one needs to be grounded to the casing, okay? And now it's a volume pot because you've done that. Until you do that, it's not a volume pot. It's not yet. Now your tone control is going to be different and how you wire it up. And there's different wiring for the tone controls and how sometimes you wire the capacitor in series with the volume pot. Sometimes you can tag it to the outer casing of that, so it needs to go to ground. And then how you have signal coming into it, and essentially the more you turn it, the more it's sending signal to ground through the capacitor, which is making it dark, or bassier sounding perceived. My point is that you have a tone control that you've wired up as a volume control. So that's what you've done wrong. That I can't think of another scenario where that would be acting like that if you didn't do that. So. First thing you need to make sure is that there are no lugs, the 3 lugs on your tone control. None of them are grounded to the casing or grounded, period, to anything else. You just want the capacitor on there. And then, of course, you need signal going into it. So to keep it the easiest, you're going to have some kind of signal, usually jumped off of the volume pot, going into the tone control or the pot. And then you're going to have the center lug like to ground, right? Does that make sense? And then, you're not going to have it. You're not going to have the 3rd lug grounded because that would close it off. It would put 100% to ground and you'd have no more sound. So that is my guess. And I didn't pull out my dry erase board, even though I know some of you really love it. That's a joke. No one seems to love the dry erase board. I thought it was going to be great. Every time I pulled it out, I was like, oh, not this crap again. I'm like, oh, awesome. Slow 5150 says, Phil, any benefit to cutting a bone nut with a file size up? In other words, so instead of using like a 10 gauge file, you're going to use an 11 or a 13 gauge file. I see what you're saying. Like instead of using the 42, you go up to the 46. Any benefit to that? No benefit that I can think of. Is there a downside? Not really, because technically, if I was going to use my file kit to slot out a nut for 10 gauge strings, if I threw 9s on it, I would expect no issues as long as they were polished and done well. So you would have no downside to that. There's an upside, I guess. Okay, you said is there a benefit? I guess it's because you could easily go from 9s to 10s and back. So I will tell you, slow 5150, that the majority of nuts, this is going to get 12, the 12-year-olds are going to come out now. The majority of nuts, nut cases, whatever you call it. No, the majority of nuts, hold on a second. This is so wacky how my screen went wacky on me. The majority of nuts that are cut at the factories are cut for 10, even if they're sticking 9s on it, just to keep life easy. So it's just a lot easier to do that. So that's why they do it. Me, I always just do whatever, the customer had asked. So if they ever wanted, if they're going to put 9s, I'd do it for 9s. Me personally, I'm trying to think if what do I do? Do I default to 10s all the time? Probably. I never thought about it, but I probably just do. I don't play 9s a lot anymore. I play 10s. I used to play 9s before I was on YouTube all the time. Now I play 10s most of the time. And it's just because I play a lot more. Because I'm making videos all the time. Because I play a lot more strings. Just like if you work out all the time, the weights just seem a little lighter. The strings just seem a little lighter when you work out. So that's why I do mostly 10s. So yeah. If you're thinking about going to 11 gauge and slotting it for 11s, if you're using 10s, I wouldn't do that. It's not a negative thing. Again, it's just, so, but there's no benefits, but there's really no downsides. Okay. I don't know. Okay, hold on a second. That's an interesting question. Let me think about it. Okay, so this one came. Amanda grabbed this one too. In fact, all the ones I'm reading right now, Amanda grabbed. So thank you, Amanda. This one says, Phil, do you think the Gibson Mod Shop guitars are maligned unfairly? So, no. Here's what I can tell you about expensive guitars. People who don't want to buy them think they're stupid. Notice I didn't say can't afford them. Don't want to buy them. I've told you guys this many times. Affording and not affording is not the only criteria most people think about when they buy a guitar. It's not even the closest thing. Okay. Most of us are the opposite. We can't afford any of this stuff, and we can't stop obsessing about it until we figure out how to get it. Okay. A lot of us have an addiction. So to this instrument because of the music. We got music in our soul. It changed our life forever. And now we need to play music and be around music. And it's a drug. It's the best drug ever because it's essentially doesn't cause you any problems like drugs do. But that being said, a lot of people are not interested. I make this content all the time, so I can tell you. Some people are like, when they go, $6,000 guitar, they're not even interested. And I go, oh, you don't want to learn about it? I'm like, no, I'm never going to buy that. It's stupid. It's not even because they can't afford it. They're just like, I'm not going to buy that. I kind of understand that. Okay. But that criticism is not really warranted. If you're not interested in it, just don't say anything. People realize, some people fail to understand something I can tell you from making thousands of videos essentially and podcasts that essentially where I'm giving my opinion. You don't always have to have an opinion on everything. That's what I've learned. In fact, you're better for it in life. I have opinions on a few things. You guys probably think I have opinions on a lot of things. I don't. I have an opinion on a few things, and then I don't care about the rest. I don't have opinions about them. When I say I don't care, I mean I don't care to have an opinion about it. It's not something I'm interested in talking about. So I would say that's one of the problems. I think the problem, though, for any custom shop product is that they're like, the mod shop and stuff. It's just expensive. If you want it, you want it. But do I think it's scrutinized unfairly? No. I think, I've told you I've been run through the ringer enough times publicly, but I've always come to the conclusion, well, I guess I put myself out there and that's what you get. You get run through the ringer. I think the same thing with manufacturers. If you're going to build guitars that are expensive, you're going to get scrutinized. That's the game you're in, I know this because I've done videos where I've reviewed like a guitar that's like $100 and I'll go, oh, it's a really decent guitar. I can't believe it. And people are like, it's junk. And I'm like, well, here's the problem. How do you say it's junk? It's $100. It's It's a guitar that's cheaper than a decent pedal. It's crazy. So it's hard to scrutinize that. It's very easy to scrutinize a guitar that's $5,000 because for $5,000, it should be amazing in every way. So I don't think so. But I don't know. I can just tell you about my personal travels with expensive guitars, which is what I've learned from me is if I didn't have the channel, I would probably never have bought any guitars over, I wouldn't say $2,500. I'd say $3,000. I don't think I would have ever bought a guitar over $3,000 if it wasn't for the channel. Because there's sometimes, not only is my curiosity, but then I was like, well, I want to put every kind of guitar. Like I did the Novo for $4,200. I put it on the channel. And what I can tell you is I own no guitars or have pulled any guitars through the channel that are over $4,000. That's a number that I've liked better than any guitars I've owned that were $1,000 or $1,500. I'm not saying they weren't great. I'm just saying there's no guitar that I've either bought personally and owned or had a review on the channel and thought, when I've heard people do it, I love that they do it. They go, wow, I totally get it now. How many times have you heard that? Wow, I totally get why everybody thinks this is the greatest thing ever. It's so great, I can't ever go back. And I'm like, I still have my favorites. My Mira, this is my Mira. It's a 2013 PRS Mira. It was brand new. This was $1,200. I think it was $1,299 retail when it came out. I think I paid $750 for it. Still love it. Didn't get rid of it. I've had it since 2013. I bought it brand new. So that's how long I've had it. And I've had a pile of really expensive PRSs here, and they were all great. But I would argue that not a single one made me go, I got to get rid of that. That's just junk now. I think that's still in play. So I guess that's my nice way of saying is if you're not in the market to buy a really expensive guitar or you can't afford one, you're not missing out. I really have determined, which is what I believed in the beginning, which is what sucks sometimes when you have, like I had a thought and then I said, well, even though I had a thought, I'm going to try it. So I'm going to do this for years. I'm going to do every guitar, every price point. What I came to the conclusion is it's just about owning something that no one else has. If that's, and some people get like upset about that. And I go, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that philosophy. Somebody wants something nice, like a nice watch or a nice car. They want to live in the nicer neighborhood. They want, nicer things. If that's what fuels their fire, then that's what fuels their fire. It doesn't necessarily do that for me, those things. Like I don't wear like a watch. I don't wear anything that, would go, oh, look at what I bought. It's so cool. That doesn't do it for me. And with guitars, when I buy an expensive guitar, the only thing that's cool is the curiosity is more I'm excited about. Like, what is it going to be like? And but it doesn't do anything like, I've never been anywhere. No one's ever heard me standing in a group of people and they go, oh, I have a Fender Squier. And I'm like, oh, well, I have a Murphy Lab Les Paul. Just, in fact, the one thing I can say was probably negative about me and maybe positive at the same time is that if you've ever bumped into me and you were talking and you said, oh, I have a Squier, I would probably say, yeah, me too, because I do. And I'll be like, yeah, me too. I just wouldn't mention that I have something else. I'd be like, I'd instinctively go for the thing that I think could bond us the fastest to make the conversation interesting and have a conversation. So that's just funny. I think it's because I'm always like, I don't know, looking for somebody to talk about guitars with. Okay, here's another one from Amanda. It says, hey, will I do damage to my American Vintage 251 Telly by wet sanding the neck? I feel like a more woody neck. Will you do damage? Well, yeah, you're literally gonna take the finish off the neck. So yeah, you're by definition damaging it. You're removing it. I don't know if you have to wet sand it. I mean, I understand you're using wet sandpaper. Don't wet it. Don't physically put water in your wood, even if it's got a finish, because when the finish gets off, the wood is just going to suck up the water. I don't think you're actually talking about putting water on the wet sandpaper, but just let you know, if you want to sand the finish off your neck, what you're doing is you're just guaranteeing that your resale value went to crap. And if you decide you don't love it, and here's what's funny, and this is why I always say, everybody goes, well, who cares about that? Well, here's my cautionary tale, my friend. If you're trying to modify your guitar because you don't like it, what happens when you modify it and you still don't like it? Now you just screwed yourself out of the value of it. That is the thing to be scared of. I'm not trying to talk you out of it, but I've seen it too many times. I famously, my first, I had a customer who sanded the finish off his the JP13 neck. And, dude, just tanked the value of it. And he's like, I know. And I bought it and I didn't love it. I didn't love the neck because it was all sanded down. He thinned it down too thin, and it's just too thin and just didn't feel right. And then, I sold it, and same thing, 'cause it had no value because somebody sanded it. So he sanded it because he didn't like the finish. And I think the lesson he learned is what I'm telling you, which is he was probably better off looking for the right guitar and selling his guitar off. So that's what I'm basically going to tell you. When you hear those stories about rock stars, because this is the story that always fuels that fire. Oh, well, so-and-so back in the 70s, they sanded their neck off. Hey, they took a chisel out. They chiseled it out. That's because that was the choice. Do that or nothing. There wasn't online delivery within 24 hours. I would argue that, I don't know if I could argue, none of us could factually argue whether or not Eddie Van Halen or any of the guitars heroes that modified their guitars would not do it now that they can just order something that's more like what they wanted from Sweetwater Guitar Center and have it in a day. But I would say less, right? Again, we're not going to say no, but I'm going to say less, right? You can just find what you like. So, but if you love the guitar in every way and you really believe that taking the finish off the neck is going to be the thing that takes you to the next level, then, like I said, do it. But the downfall is not what you're, like I said, aside from don't put water on the neck, there's no damage that's going to hurt the guitar. Once you sand that finish off, it's not going to damage the guitar, having the wood exposed. You're just killing the value. So, there is since you're talking about American vintage too, here's the deal. There is another option, which I've seen people do, which is you can take them to different shops throughout the United States where there's different luthiers who specialize in relicking guitars. And I've seen players do this a lot, which is they will take their guitar and have them sand the neck, but then relic the whole guitar so it all looks right. And then that actually helps the resale a little bit. It doesn't make it worth more, but when somebody, goes to buy it, they're just going to see a relic fender, and it's not going to really, you're just going to say, oh, it was relic by this so-and-so person. Sometimes it doesn't hurt the value as bad. Let's see. Okay. All right. You know what it's time for?
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
It's time for Guitar of the Week. Nice little break for me, talk about guitars. So, what guitar? I was going to actually do the Crook Telly. A lot of you are asking, what's that Paisley Telly? That's a Crook Telly. I have it on our Reverb site. We're selling it. We're still thinning down all the guitars here, as we do. We don't keep very much that is for the channel. So that's a Crook Telly for those. We'll do that soon. You'll see that guitar soon. I don't know why I have trouble pointing it. But I want to do something different today. So it's a Kiesel. No, it is a G&L. So this is a G&L you have not seen. And this is an actual custom shop G&L. So, and that's really different because, as you know, G&L did a lot of cool things, but they actually had a custom shop. And this one actually has like relicking done it. See, like it's all checked. Look at that finish. So, and this one is cool because it's all rounded. See, it's got a big dent right there. Look at that. This is a relic G&L. Look at the spider webbing in the finish, all the cracks. And this one, I have all the paperwork. So I thought I'd share since, G&L's gone. We're going to miss them, but we might as well talk about G&L a little bit. This is an ASAT Classic. This is a swamp ash body, butterscotch blonde, nitrocellulose lacquer finish. This is why stories like this are funny. Ready? When I was at G&L one time, they said, hey, Phil, you want to see something cool? And I said, what? And they go, not this guitar. They showed me a guitar and they go, look at this. And I go, oh. And I was holding it. And I go, what is it? And they go, it's a nitrocellulose finish. And they go, you should video us doing it. And I go, because we have a really cool way to do it. And I go, oh, cool. And I go, I thought it was illegal to do that in California. And they look, I swear, this is true. They looked at each other and they go, yeah, don't film that. So anyways, So that's what happened with that. It's got the boxed steel 3-saddle bridge with the Bigsby. Look at that. So you can see, like, you can see the back through the back of the bridge with the 3 brass saddles, and then the Bigsby comes underneath. It's a 9.5-inch radius, 1 11/16 nut width, with a 1 5/8 string spacing. Hard rock maple neck, matched fingerboard, satin light tent finish. Oh yeah. So it's like a finish, but it's satin. It's got the G&L MFD ASAT Classic single coil in the neck and the G&L MFD. Does everyone hear MFD? You're like, are they cursing? MFD, man, this is the MF pickup. MFD ASAT Classic single in the bridge. Controls is a 3-position blade selector with a volume and tone, and custom shop deluxe. This was built in September 27th of 2018. So, which is funny because that's when I was there. Ironically, that's when I was filming there, and that's when they were right before. In fact, it was this guitar. If you go back, you'll see my video. I was there in October. No, not in October. Nope, that would be after. I was there before. I was there in July. So I was there in July, and this was built in September. And then you get a certificate of authenticity. You know, I always love that they did this kind of stuff, the spec sheets and stuff. And then, of course, there's a warranty card that means nothing now because you can't send it in. Although, you know. All right, so let's share the guitar. What are we plugged into? I'm using my Blue Note J-Rocket audio pedal, which is a light overdrive, sometimes referred to as a transparent overdrive pedal, if you will. Turn on the guitar sound. There we go, a little reverb. I'll start with the neck pickup, just give you some sounds, and we'll go from there. This is good. This is bad. Okay, let's go to the bridge. I love how the neck and the bridge balance. I'm gonna switch between them back and forth just so you can hear that. Weight-wise, I didn't even think about this. I didn't officially weigh it, but 7.5. It's definitely not 8 pounds. It's actually light. Considering it has the Bigsby on it, it's pretty crazy. So, beautiful, beautiful guitar. Somebody says, hey, what? Where did I saw it? Somebody asked, did he say what amp he's using? I did not. So I have a video. It'll be out this weekend. So I'm not running an amp right now. So I'm running my Blue Note J-Rocket audio pedal and in my Royalist preamp pedal and then direct into the mixer. So that's what you're hearing. So without the pedal, it sounds like this, clean. Okay. I gotta stop playing it because I'm having a little fun. So that's the guitar of the week. Little throwback to G&L when they were existing. How about that? When they were existing. And let's do the thumbnail. We gotta do the thumbnail. Ready? What a guitar? That's our thumbnail. What a guitar. I never thought about it. I'm like, what a guitar. I'm always saying like, what? Like what? You're here? Like what? A guitar? Now I feel like I'm saying like, like Whataburger. What a burger. What a guitar? what a guitar. So very cool. So guitar of the week, G&L Custom Shop. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you the back. Look at that. It says, here, let's switch the camera here. It says G&L Custom Shop right there. So very cool. So this guitar will not be staying. So if anyone's interested, you can email us at AskKnowYourGear. These are expensive. I know. They don't hold value like they used to, but even this one's going to be on the pricier side. If I was going to guess, it's going to be on the shallow side of the $3,000 to the mid-high $2,000 range. So, but you can check out our website as well. I sold the Novo last week. And I want to thank the person who bought that was sold within like 2 hours, which is crazy. And exciting for us was the Novo, after everything was said and done, between the video doing almost 200,000 views and the Novo, we made $245. I'm not exaggerating. I know that sounds like that's crazy, good or bad. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but that's fantastic. We were able to make the video, present the video to you guys, and sell the guitar off after we made the video and net $245. So not horrible, right? It's like $120 a day because I always say it's 2 days of work, but it's really like a week. But physically, somebody asked me again, what year is it? It's a 2018, and it has the original case and everything. It's perfect. This was my buddy Pat's. As you guys know, Pat is somebody I talked about. He's one of my first customers in my store, and he takes care of everything. So this thing is funny. It's relic, and it looks perfect, if that makes any sense. So I just thought I'd share with that. Nice. Okay. And then David says, well, why are you getting rid of it? We are constantly getting rid of guitars. I like I said, they're in videos. Right now, we have all the videos planned until July. Are we up to July? What are we in? So next month's April, May, June, July. Oh yeah. So all the videos are done till July. So all those guitars, as the videos launch, we release the guitar out for sale once the video's done. It's how we fund the next video. Like I said, not all our videos are sponsored. Right now, not even half the videos are sponsored, which is, whether that, and so you got to understand, somebody has to pay for those videos. You cannot I know you guys, and I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, and the channel is huge. I get that, I say it all the time. It's like 400,000 subs, but you got to understand, like, just to be very clear, so you guys know, it takes hundreds of thousands of views to make enough to buy a guitar and make your own video independently. So I always say that not so that you think of me, but I want you to think about those channels out there making videos for you that get 2,000 or 10,000 views, and they make literally $3.45 or maybe $10, sometimes maybe $30 on the high end, and they're buying guitars. Even if they're buying $200-$300 guitars, you can understand this will put you in the poorhouse making content on YouTube. You gotta be Rick Beato. I don't know what you gotta be, but to do crazy numbers, it's gotta be crazy. So that's why we let this stuff go. So very, very rarely do we keep anything that was made for a video. So, all right. Okay, let's go to the next subject. Okay, let's see. Okay, ones and zeros. This came from Amanda. Says, hey, Phil, since you featured the JS 2480, which is the Joe Satriani guitar that I showed last week, he says, I got my heart set on it, but I think it's just my interest in the Sustainiac best cheaper option you'd recommend for that purpose, please. So I would normally tell you, like, obviously Schecter makes a Sustainiac guitar, and of course Ibanez makes a more affordable version of the guitar, more obtainable. Definitely, then I say affordable, because that's still gonna be $1,500. And in used, I think you can get them down to $1,000. And then there's other brands that make Sustainiac pickups. But I really think when the video comes out, you'll see where I told you I'm showing you the Digitech Freakout pedal, and I'm comparing the two, and you're gonna see that there's some plus and minuses. What I will tell you is, if ones and zeros, you have it in your craw, so to speak, as our parents would say. So it's definitely something I grew up with. Is this stuck in your craw? I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but to me it means like you can't stop thinking about it. Okay, let me go to favorites and watch list. Okay, this is the pedal. I'll show you this one. Okay, so ones and zeros. If you go on to Reverb, that's where I've been finding the best deals. So you go here. There is this pedal called the Digitech Freakout. This is by City Music Annex, right? Oh, it's weird that it doesn't scroll the thing I want to show you, which is City Music Annex right there. This one's $189 plus $10 shipping. It says that it's mint used, but in my experience, this is probably, says mint with all the original packaging. See, look at this. Mint with all the original packaging. So I can't guarantee you it's a new pedal, but it looks, I would imagine you're going to get something like that's either new or really new adjacent, like I said, in packaging and everything. $200 is what this would cost you plus tax. These are normally $250, so that's $50 off. So think of this, that's 20% off. So I was able to find a bunch of Digitech Freakout pedals for the $200 price point. $200 is not a little bit of money, but it will get it out of your system. I guess that's what I want to say to you is it will, it'll get it out of your system if you need a Sustainiac. It does pretty much what the Sustainiac is. They're different in the way that the Sustainiac physically, like I said, it physically is vibrating the guitar a little bit because of the way it works, and you can feel some of the energy in the guitar. That it's more organic. I would argue that if you haven't played a Sustainiac pickup, you wouldn't notice anything that you're missing if you get the Freakout pedal. So that's why I bought a Freakout pedal just for that video, because I knew that was going to be a question, which was, do you need the Sustainiac pedal? Something to understand is, like, when I bought that Just Start Running guitar, which I bought it to make the video, a lot of times, because we know we're going to lose money on the guitar. So, for instance, the Novo cost us $4,200 and we sold it for $3,000. Actually, we sold the Novo, just so you guys know, we sold the Novo, here. I guess we are a transparent channel because I'm just going to show you everything. Okay, orders. Okay, so we sold the Novo. I just got to make sure I can't obviously share with you the customers' information or anything. Does it? Will it give me a breakdown? Does it give you the breakdown? Reader guidelines. I want to see the breakdown. Okay. So let me do this. I'm pretty sure this is all safe now. Okay. So let me go here. The Novo sold for $3,373. I charged $80 in shipping. By the way, it costs $160 in shipping, but you know how it works out there. If I charge $160 in shipping, everybody's like, are you ridiculous? But it did cost us $160 in shipping. No problem. We kind of factor that into the whole pie here. Then the customer paid $331. So they paid $3,784.91. So what did I get? I received $2,998 of that. So, I'm gonna pull that up and verify that so you guys know, and then let's see. Okay, and okay, let's see. Hold on a second. We're gonna go to. Just gotta find, oh, here it is. Okay, let me do this. It's just, because it's got I can't give you my bank information. That's just too much. too much to give you. I can't give you that. All right, ready? So here, just so you guys know, and this all makes sense what I'm about to say, hopefully in a second. If we go here to web. So I was wrong, not $298, $2,993.84. So of that, that's what we received. And then, like I said, what the video made, we ended up netting $245 after the video posts, right? So we didn't make back, obviously, so the thing was, the video made enough to pay for the guitar, and then we actually paid ourselves something. The reason I tell you that is because sometimes this probably doesn't make sense to you guys, so let me help you make sense. When I buy a guitar, sometimes I do a video, like that Novo, or like the Joe Satriani guitar, because we know we're going to have to sell it at a loss, I tend to buy guitars that I not only think are interesting in the video, but I buy the one that I might like. Because if I end up liking it, then I can buy it for that. I can buy it for the reduced price. Why do I have to sell it to somebody else? So that's why, like I said, that's why I got that Joe Satriani model. Otherwise, if I didn't think I was going to be interested in the guitar at all, I would have bought the Indonesian one because it would be a lot cheaper and it just would work just as well. Because again, it's for the illustration to point out how the Staniak works and stuff. But I will tell you that I like the guitar, but I didn't love the guitar. And the Freak Out pedal is, I think, really, you can get away with that. So, and then it says, does the Staniak pedals come with a wah version or just on and off? It's kind of weird. It's like an expression kind of feel to the pedal. I don't know how to kind of explain it any different than that. I don't know. But yeah. So, let's go back. Steve-O UK says that's a crazy amount of sales costs. Yeah, it's brutal. I told you. That's why I said sometimes we'll put the stuff on our website, and if we put it on our website, we don't have to charge you sales tax, and I'll eat the fees out of it because and then we end up netting just a little bit more, and then you guys save a little bit of money. So if you go to knowyourgearpodcast.com. Unfortunately, you're going to have to check on the regular. We don't send out an official notice that when we list the guitar, except for the patrons. Well, sometimes I'll tell the patrons a heads up first, obviously, because they're supporting the channel. I want to give them a little heads up and say, hey, just so you know, we listed these. But so you know, the Novo sold so fast, I don't even think the patrons got to really see it. Very many of them got to see it. But yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's go on to the next subject. All right. Nope. Somebody's asking me if I'm interested in other instruments. Nope. The answer is no to your question. Nope. Bass, guitar. That's it. For the most part. Nope, this person doesn't understand. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see. Oh, Bird Rockin' says, hey, if I buy a used American Strat, what is an easy way to tell if it's really a Squire body? You can take I have a video on that. I have a video on, you just type in Phil McKnight, Fender Strat, where I break down the US Strats, and I'll explain to you that the Mexican Strats have 3 holes, the American Strats have 1 hole. There's ways to see the route patterns. That's the fastest tell to tell you right away. And then, of course, just really once you get inside them, it used to be obviously the Squires were thinner, but now they make Squire bodies just as thick. But you can tell by looking at the pickups, you can tell by the bridge, where the bridge posts are, what type of post they're using. But essentially, and of course, there's going to be marking stamps on everything. If you watch the video I just did of the Jackson Dinky, where, like I said, everybody on the internet was saying, oh, you look at the serial number, and that serial said 96 or 97. They're like, hey, it's a 97. And I pulled it apart, and it was clearly stamped on the neck and in the body, made in 2002. That's how Fender will be, too. There will be clear stamps and barcodes and stickers inside the guitar as well. So the first tell you're going to notice is that when you take the pickguard off and there's no stickers or markings on the body, that would not be from the U.S. The U.S. will have some kind of markings in them. Vintage reissue guitar bodies from Fender will have stamping in them, some kind of letter stamping in them. Relic guitars, believe it or not, from Fender have Relic. I think it's R-E-L-K-C, R-E-L-C, Relic in it. Sometimes not always clearly stamped through, so sometimes it's just kind of half-ass stamped in there, but it's there. So there are clear signs, and I have a bunch of videos where I go through all the things you need to check for. This one also came from Amanda. It says, have you seen the Shark guitars from Turkey? I have seen the Shark guitars from Turkey. They sent me some stuff about sending a guitar out, and that was before the NAMM show, and then I haven't heard from them since. So I think I said I would imagine. I don't know. I haven't talked to them, but this happens a lot. I've been doing this for a long time. A company will reach out. They're very excited about doing a video, and then what ends up happening is, in that case, I think Dweezil Zappa did a video and it went viral, and then usually companies, once they get either they got a lot of orders from that and now they're backlogged on orders and they don't need any help promoting their guitar, so they don't need to send one out to me, or they got a lot of hype from it. Sometimes it works the other way. So I've had it where a company was really eager to work with the channel, but then another they sent it to another YouTuber. The YouTuber did a video, and then they saw no sales from it, so then they're a little scared to send out a guitar because they're not going to see any sales. A guitar like that, we tend not to send them back because it's just, obviously it's coming from Turkey. It's got to go through customs, and it's really hard for me to spend all that time making a video and then package the guitar up and then ship the guitar back and get it through customs and deal with all that stuff. So there isn't a cost to them because, again, they're going to have to leave the guitar behind for us to do the video, especially on a guitar like that. A guitar like that, Shauna factors in the... I don't want to say the billable hours, but I have a sheet. Just like if I was a plumber or electrician or anyone else who has a job where I have to bill it in hours, a guitar like that is 2 full 40 weeks, 2 40-hour weeks for me. That's what a guitar like that takes. To scrutinize, to go through all those options, go through all that stuff, to do all the research, find out about their company, download all the pictures and stuff, and do a deep dive like that, and feel like I could actually communicate something to you guys that would be enlightening. That's what that would take to do that. There's no amount of money that makes that sense for the most part. And what I mean is, so that's, I said, we'll see if they ever reach out again, we'll go forward from there. But, yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, this one's from Games for One, 4105. This came from a man as well. It says, hey, bought a new Epiphone 335 from Guitar Center. It developed fret sprout in less than a week in my home. Humidity in the room was not below 40%. Sure, but let's not confuse that. This is a good subject. Do I get a quote from my local repair shop or ask GC to cover it? You could do all the above. You can reach out to Guitar Center and say, hey, look, the fret sprout happened. The important part to understand about fret sprout is obviously in my experience, anything under 40% humidity, you're just it's gonna be a factor, right? The neck will shrink, the frets will pop, and you'll feel them. However, you don't need a guitar to get 40% humidity. You can have a guitar neck shrink because it was over humidified, and now you're just humidifying it correctly. So in other words, I've seen fret sprout at 50 or 60% humidity. It's very rare, but it happens because somebody was, had it up to 80%, and of course the neck was all, swollen. And so it's possible. Guitar stores, what's great about guitar stores is they tend to be extremely dry inside. And that's because the door is constantly opening and closing. So Guitar Center is going to have, that's why people go to Guitar Centers. Same thing with all mom and pop stores. You walk in and you feel fret sprout all the time. You're like, what's going on here? They don't take care of it. I'm like, look, the door constantly open and closing in the store and running all that AC or heating, either way, central air between the heating and cooling, drying out the air. You're going to usually experience it. And so my suggestions are threefold. One, you can reach out to Guitar Center and say, hey, could you fix this? They tend to not. Let me tell you why. It's something I don't like about Guitar Center. And like I said, I have some things I like, but I have a lot of things I don't like about Guitar Center. One of them is the repair shop is not ran by the store. It's the dumbest thing ever. I'm sure it has some kind of lawyer corporate crap attached to it. And I'll ask Gabe about it. It's in our notes to talk to him about this, which is, so whether you realize or not, so the store, like when you go into a Guitar Center, the store manager manages obviously you have a store manager and you have sales managers, and they manage the people, the employees that you see, but not the repair guys. The repair guys report to corporate. They don't even have like a boss in the store, so to speak, which is totally stupid. because essentially that's why I think you have troubles, and I think people have troubles when they're trying to get what you perceive to be, like in my old store, you walked in and I'm like, obviously because I'm the owner, I'm like, my repair shop, and I never pulled like my repair shop is different than my store, right? They were like, wait a minute, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, technically it's different LLCs. Now, funny enough, in my store, so you guys know, they were. My lesson academy was a different business than my store, and my repair shop was different. So, and that's for all. I can tell you why, so you understand. It was mostly for tax purposes, and not tax purposes to the IRS, tax purposes to the city and the state. Because obviously, I have to collect sales tax, and so what happened with a lesson academy, where 99% of the transactions were services and not items, product selling. You didn't want to commingle your sales tax, because what happens is you're running the chance. This is a stupid conversation to have, but it's just there. You're running the chance of getting audited by the state or the city, because they're going to go, wait a minute, how are you doing this number but only reporting this much in sales? And then you're going to go, well, this is lessons, right? And this was my repair hours, right? Because so on repair, I would charge you sales tax on the parts, but not on the labor, right? So that's why we separated it. But because we separated for that reason, I didn't pull any crap where I was like, oh, I'm a different LLC than the person standing next to me. But Guitar Center does kind of play that game, which sucks. So I'm just telling you this game's for fun, that you might go in there and they're going to be like, oh, yeah. You're like, hey, can you have the tech just take care of this? And they're going to be like, no, he's not part of the store. It's just dumb. But you can always ask. The other thing is, be prepared. Just because they might not be able to get the tech to do the work, that they could give you something to take care of you. So compensate you, I want to say. So you might say, hey, look, how about you, whatever, give me a $40 worth of product or whatever, or discount this guitar a little bit so I can cover it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. You got to think of all the options. Be prepared to have 3 options to present them, and let them say no to all 3. I don't mean hopefully they will. Hopefully they won't. But I'm just saying it's a lot easier than when people tell me, because people email me all the time, and this is a good time to clear this up. I give no shits, so you know. When you guys tell me that you're like, I had a bad experience, and you tell me how you went in and you demanded something and they said no, and I'm like, look, that's not how you talk to people. You go in and you say, hey, I have a problem. And then you go, do you have a solution? And if they say no, you go, well, here are 3 possible solutions I will take. And if they say no to all 3, now you have all my respect to get upset, to call them criminals, to whatever. But when people say, hey, I asked for 50% off and they said no. And I'm like, okay, well, look, in a perfect world, they would come back with their, like, I can't do that, but I'll do this. But you definitely want to have solutions. So games for fun. If I was in your boots, so to speak, I would go in and say, hey, look, can you correct this fret sprout issue for me? And if they say no, then you're okay. Can you discount the guitar so I can go have it done somewhere? And then they go, no. And you go, okay, can you compensate me with a product? Can you give me whatever, a $40 care cleaning kit or whatever the dollar amount is, right? Product, because sometimes they can do, that's easier for them. Again, you're trying to work within what the employee, because they're employees. They work for a corporation, their hands are tied, so to speak, but not fully tied. Sometimes they have options for you. And the other thing is also if you get no's from the employees, then get the sales manager. I think this is because I was in the Army. There's just instinctively in me, like you walk up the chain of command, right? I don't ask for the general. I go, who's the general on this post? Right? My direct deposit's 4 hours late. No, anyways, my point is, if the employee says no, they can't help you. Well, then you don't have to take that no either. See, you gave them 3 options. They can't do it. Now you get the sales manager. Then give them a shot. I know this sounds frustrating, but the end goal is you're trying to get your situation taken care of. And the difference is you can either quit and just, take it and you got the guitar and you're stuck with it, or you can return it. But that's what I would offer. Then if they do compensate in some way, then you can go to any shop you want to. Me personally, games for fun, I would just watch one of the Phil McKnight videos on how to correct fret sprout. And then maybe take some of that, if they give you compensation, take some of that money and buy some Stu Mac tools. For that guitar, I would say if you just bought a fret and dress file and one of those sanding sticks from Amazon that I've highly recommended many times, those 2 tools In fact, games for fun. How about this? Do me a favor. Let's have some fun with this. Take some of my suggestions. Okay, you don't have to do exactly what I said, but take those to heart. Whatever. I suggest you go back to them. If you could, you send the response to askknowyourgear@gmail.com. And put in the heading, games for fun or whatever it is you think it's going to make me catch that it's you in this. And I will gladly give everybody an update next week or the following week on what happened with you. And if you decide you want to do the fret spread on that guitar, I will specifically do a video and either launch it on the second channel or just launch a link to it so you can get to it with me doing those two tools. So you got to figure you're gonna be, because you can buy them both from Amazon, and I'm gonna say $15 and under $25 is what you need in tools, and you can totally do the work yourself. You're gonna need a little painter's tape probably, but you can. Whatever. And you can totally do that work as good as anyone else can. I promise you. It's a very hard thing. It's one of my favorite things to teach because it's one of the things that we used to charge a lot for, do a lot for people, and really is the thing they could have done themselves. So that's just my suggestions for that. And yeah. And because ultimately, look, you all have the same goal, that you want a guitar and they wanted to sell you a guitar. That's the thing that people forget. You're aligned in the goal. They want you to have the guitar too, right? So now you just got to figure out how you're both going to be happy with how you keep the guitar. So that's my suggestion for that. And like I said, and not to be so harsh when I'm talking about people emailing, but a lot of people just send us a lot of emails, and I always think about it when I'm reading it, and a lot of times it's just so like. You can't just demand a thing and then them not, and then not jump and then you be upset. It's just not reasonable. I'm not saying it's not right or wrong. It's just not reasonable for a person that wants to have a sane, calm life. You need to understand you're going to have to deal with this world, this corporate mandate crap world, and how you navigate it. I have probably not yelled in a store in 20 years at least. Maybe longer, but before then, I used to think that's how you got your way. I'm like, well, let me see the manager, and you do one of those, and I learned I got nowhere every time. And I thought, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm telling him I want to see the manager, and I've made some kind of loud gesture, and now I've learned, no, you want to negotiate. That's how you want to do it. And when they don't negotiate, you know what you do? You just realize that you just spent your money at the wrong place, and you never go back again. So... Okay, Dougal Dog says, hey, good day, Phil. Do Cortec workers strive to move upstream to higher level brands or guitar lines being made in various factories? Do those pay more, but have better work structures, conditions? So yes, so two things. Yes, leveling up to different departments pays more, right? So certain departments pay more. There's entry level. This is Factory 101 in the U.S. Like the person sanding guitar bodies and buffing is starting in at the lowest pay rate. That's like the intro level position. So it's not any different than in Indonesia than in USA, right? You come on off the street and you're like, you know how to build guitars, and like, no, and they're like, okay, can you sand? Right? Yeah, and then can you buff? Yeah, it's because it's a crap job, and it's really. I mean, think about this. What people understand is when you're holding a guitar body and you're buffing on the buffing wheel, it's not like you're just holding it there. You have to actually put some muscle behind it. You can burn through the finish. You can damage the guitar, so you got to do it at the right amount of pressure. So it's a labor job, and kind of like, I don't want to say mindless, but obviously you want to wear headphones a lot of times because it's not very exciting. So they start there and then they work up. Yes, it was very easy for me to assess very quickly. Like the pure SSE factory is like one of the jobs to have. Okay, so yes, a lot of fat workers would like to get from the lower factories up, lower quality factory to the higher quality factory building to get a higher pay and a better kind of job. Again, I'm sure setting up guitars, turning Allen wrenches all day on a guitar is a lot better than standing there with a respirator or a mask, breathing in wood dust all day and sanding or cleaning or mopping or whatever it is. So yes, and then yes, there's pay grades. So generally speaking, they can start in at about $3,000 a year And again, this is important because some of this is not information directly told to me by Cort, so I'm not giving you inside information. This is just I was in the country and I would learn as much as I could. So, and before some of you freak out, you have to understand, like when you take the currency equation calculator, it's about a $40,000 a year job in the U.S. And then they can make as much as $5,000-$6,000 a year U.S. And that's about a $50,000-$60,000 a year job in the U.S. So that's good. But keep in mind they have a lower living condition, a lower cost of living conditions, or lower cost of living there. So compared to a worker, this is where it gets really tricky. Workers in California, you understand, they're in one of the most expensive living costs in the country, and they're making $50,000-$60,000 a year building your guitars. And so it's not, I'm not saying the Indonesian job's a better job or anything like that. I'm just giving you all the information to factor in. There's so many factors into what's better a job. I mean, I could argue that, they technically are making more compared to their cost of living, but also I could tell you right now, whether I was in the factories in Mexico or I was in factories in Indonesia, OSHA is a thing here. And so the working conditions here for the American workers are cleaner. Even though it was a clean factory, it's cleaner. It's a little safer, right? There's, workman's comp it didn't appear to me at the Cort factory, just like when I was in the Mexican factories, that workman's comp was something overly that they freaked out about, where here in the US, workman's comp is something that manufacturers really worry about, that if somebody was going to get hurt on the job, so different standards. But overall, the condition looked pretty good as a whole. But I always say this, I was there for 2 days, and I'm not going to go, I'm an expert now on how their conditions and stuff worked. And I'm just giving you the information that I observed when I was there. And also what I would think if I was ever to speak and try to speak as an informed person about working conditions in a factory, especially outside the US, I would want to be there at least a month to be able to know. I will tell you, however, that I am going to a factory next month, and that factory, which I think is very special and very different compared to a lot of factories in the US, and I am going to be talking to employees there specifically about some interesting work. I don't want to say conditions, but work. They have a very special arrangement with their employees that seems very unique in this industry. And one of the things I asked for, which they granted me, was, could I have permission to talk to some of the employees about this particular, I'll just tell you why talk cryptically. I'm going to be going to the Taylor Guitar Factory, and if you guys don't know, in 2021, Taylor Guitars gave the business to the employees. It's employee owned. I don't know what that means. When you Google it, you can do some research. You can go on AI and you can learn a little bit, like I did. Oh, okay, the employees all own a piece of the company. I've worked in corporate America where I had stock options, so of course we were technically owned a piece of the company too. So I asked Taylor Guitars, of course I want to see all the stuff, what's going on in the factory, and I want to see the guitars, and I want to see all the stuff. But I said, can I sit down and talk to some different employees about that? About what that means to them, what that means, again, not like a expose, I'm going to expose everything. Just kind of, I'm curious, like, okay, so the company gives the company to the employees. What does that actually mean to them? And so I'll be talking to them about that. So I'll when that video comes out, I'll report back. And just like on the show, I'll report back to what I see. But I'm going to a bunch of factories this year as well. I think one thing I can say to the Cort guys that I want to thank them for every time is that Cort factory video getting 1.3 million views did open the door for some other factories. Although I still have a bunch of companies who they don't want me anywhere near that factory for some reason. I don't know why, but a lot of companies have reached out and said, "Hey, absolutely, we'd love to have you come by and do that kind of video. Kind of inform people what it's like here, and try to give it a fair shake." Both positive and negative. In other words, show what, like Cort, what's the passion, but also here are some of the things that's structured. So, Levelhead says, ChatGPT says 70% of Taylor employees love gravy. Well, we won't be eating together then. And I can't eat with them anyways. I'm on my own little regimen for a while now. Hold on. Okay, Bill, that joke made me laugh so hard. I didn't even think I was reading it right. I had to reread it again. He said Fender raised prices today because Taylor Guitars is owned by its employees. That's a great joke. I love that. So I love it. Okay. Okay. This question is from Cool Guy. Z says, hey, what? Oh, what? Wow, I'm hiccuping and trying to talk. What amp would I recommend under $1,500? It's tough, right? Because that's the thing where I don't know what kind of music you like. I don't know what you're after. I will just tell you my favorite amp, absolutely with no question, under $1,500 is my Princeton Reverb. So, highly recommend it. I like the 68 over the 65. Both are fine. But the 68's my favorite amp. I can tell you that I have lots of amps that are better than it. I think my Magnetone's better than it. I think my Amplified Nation's better than it. I think the 2-Rock is better than it. I think I was looking at another Magnetone. Another Magnetone's better than it. I like my car amp with 2 R's better than it. I like my Morgan amp better than it. But all of those amps are considerably more, if not double the price. And I would say that for half the price, and you can buy a Princeton for about $1,000 used. You don't even have to pay $15. Buy used or whatever open box buy on sale. You can find them out there. It's a great amp. So I think it's. I think the reason I love it is not only does it sound good, but it's one of the smallest combo amps that I think is legit in the idea that you can gig with it. You can practice with it. It's professional grade. In other words, professionals use it, right? And it's small. And that's different because sometimes a lot of the professional amps that, these guys use, they're so huge and so loud. It's just too much. And I can get any great sound out of the Princeton I want at a reasonable volume. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Christian says, if I gave you a $200 gift card to Sweetwater to do a deep dive on the TC bass amp, would you do it, basically? I would love to, because, think about this. That's easy, right? Because you got to fund it. There's no time. It would, it's hard for me to commit. Because I don't know the schedule and I can't pull it up right now. But so we do pedals and amps on the second channel. So if you guys don't know, we have a second channel called Know Your Gear where we do clips of the podcast, bonus material. But more importantly, that's where amps and pedal videos go. So we have 2 pedal videos posting in the next 7 days, and then we have 2 amp videos posting. And so those are also scheduled out. And the way that works, the reason why we do that is I don't edit those videos. So I make the videos and then they're edited by somebody else. So that way, otherwise they would never get done because the deep dives just take too much time. That's, I was, last year I was doing all the above. I was doing pedal videos and amp videos and bonus podcasts. And I was doing, the Cort Tech trip, and I was doing deep dives. And here's what ended up happening. I just never took any time off. And I got to a point where I was so exhausted that I just hated this so much. I didn't want to do it anymore. And it wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't like I was upset with the viewers or the companies or anybody. I wasn't upset with anything. The channel record numbers last year, record results. But at some point, the decision was made. Thank God. Actually, you know what? So, since it's on the back half of the show, I'll just tell you in the last part. I decided in August of last year, midway through the year, that I was working myself to death. My wife agreed with me. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to change things. So I worked really hard last year to get into the position where we are now, where I go to the gym 3 times a week. I get to go to the gym now. I have a trainer. He's mean to me. At least that's what I tell him. And he's a nice guy. And that's the thing. You know, you're just sitting there. My days where I'd wake up, I'd drink coffee, I would work. And then, you know, at dinner time, I would throw some horrible crap food down as fast as I could because it was almost time for bed. And then I'd go to bed. And then I'd repeat this process like every day. And so I decided, I'm like, no more of this. And my wife is in agreement. So now everything's very structured. So I just focus on these deep dives and making cool videos. I'm super excited. I have a deep dive that will be out in April. That's kind of like the Cort video, something I've been working on for a year. I'm super excited about that. That'll release. And then that we came up with the idea that why don't we have someone run the second channel? And it's a huge, I don't know, I'm exaggerating. It's a pay cut because I'm obviously paying people to do stuff now, but my time is, you know, what are you going to do? That's all you got is time, you know, that's the only valuable thing you got in life. And so I'm giving myself more time. So basically, Christian, what I'm trying to say is, yes, I'm interested in doing it. I just don't know the answer. You see what I'm saying? Because here's what I suggest, Christian. If you reach out to askknowyourgear@gmail.com and put in the subject what it is that you're asking us, what happens is a lot of people email us and some people get upset because we don't respond, but we do. So you understand, it's not that we ignore people. We prioritize every day things that are the most optimal for the community. So if you have a question I think is interesting for the community or will make a great video, I focus on that. If it's a personal thing that I can help you with, it's hard for me if we don't have the time to do that. So we kind of skip that. Just like I said, it's never a bad or good thing. It's just, so things like this, if you're interested in, like, that's essentially you're trying to say you're sponsor a video. If we can do it, I'm up to do it. I'm not prepared for those questions. You're the first one to ever ask something like that since we've switched this, because before I could just go, okay, yeah, I could figure out how to do it. But like I said, in this case, I would not be editing it. And so I would just film it. And so then it's a question of whether or not it can be done in a timely manner. So just let you know. All right, let's button up the show. Let's find one last subject or topic to talk about. Okay, hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. Oh, that's a question. I don't know the answer to this question. I'm going to read it anyways. It says, any tricks to get Reverb to get guitars in their database that are missing? I have guitars that aren't in there. They never respond to me. I don't know. I'm only reading it because I want to timestamp it when I look at it so I can do some research on it. Oh, okay. Well, end of this. This is a good question. I like it. So this one was, why would anyone ever shim a nut when it's easy to make a new one? Here's why. So this is a funny story because this actually came up with Stu Mac and me. That's how I met Stu Mac. I did a video where I did just that. I showed everybody how to shim a nut up, right? In a Sharp My Axe. And this is when I had a different philosophy than I have now. But because now I've been in the public eye with you guys for so long, there's no reason to do it. But when I started doing Sharp My Axe, I used to do them on my daughter's art table, which you guys, and that's why I said at the time made sense, because you guys didn't know, not so much who I am, but you didn't know anything about me. So you would click on a video and there I am on my daughter's art table. You can tell it's an art table because you can see all the spilled paint on it, right? And my wife and daughter had this big wood table, and I would position it in the art room, which is our front room because they make that the art room, and I would do all the repairs on that. And my thought process for this was, if I did it there and I laid out all the tools I would do in the video, that would be easy for anyone watching to understand this is all you need, okay? And I don't know why I did that. I just thought it made sense. It's kind of like how I was really trying to optimize not being my store. You know, as you guys know, I was doing the videos independent even though I owned a store. I wasn't trying to be like Anderton's and be like, hey, this is all like a McKnight Guitar Company, buy stuff from us. You know, I was trying to do my own thing. And anyways, what I would also show you guys repairs, like I said, things you could do to guitars that were non-marring that you could reverse. But more importantly, things were the limited amount of tools. And nut files are one of those things that cost the most. And when I say they cost the most, on average, a set of nut files is going to cost you about $100. And by the way, if somebody puts in the comments, just use blowtorch, whatever, pipe cleaners, that doesn't work. I know a bunch of YouTubers told you to buy those. I bought them. You know what? You could probably get them to work. It ain't worth it. Okay, it's not worth your time and your money. But anyways, $100 for some nut files is expensive because sometimes guitar players probably only do this job once or twice in their whole life. And that's a lot especially then when you can pay somebody $50 to do it. You know, it's not like you're going to save yourself money. You're only going to educate yourself. So I would go, okay, well, what could you teach somebody to do? Well, anyone can get a piece of sandpaper, stick it to a table and sand the back of a nut down and up, or glue on sheets of plastic and shim it up. So I showed you guys in a video how to do that. Why this is important is I one time was going to the NAMM show, and I don't know if it was a week or a month before, in the NAMM show, the people at Stu Mac reached out to me. I'd never talked to them before. And they said, hey, can we meet with you somewhere and have coffee? And I said, sure. So we met at a Starbucks, go figure. And I didn't know what was happening, but I sat down on there for this day. I sat down and I feel like there was 50 of them. I don't know what it was. It was just like, it was probably 6 guys. It was just, they were on a U-shaped, thing around me. We sat down. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people from Stu Mac here. And we were talking. And they began to explain that how my repair videos are sourcing to the highest, to the most on YouTube, and that everybody, they're just becoming, the most, right? To this day, I think my repair videos have more views than Stu Mac has views on their channel total, something like that, right? I don't know if that's entirely true anymore, but it's close, right? So they said, but we noticed in a video you did something weird. You shimmed up a nut. And I said, yes. And they go, and they were being very nice. What I now understand what they were trying to get to is, like, why are people watching you? Because you're not doing it the right way. They didn't say it like that. See, they said it the nice way, and it took like 15 minutes to get to the point. And I was listening, and they said, yeah. And they go, why did you do it this way? And I said, oh, because one of the things that I think is intimidating is when you have Dan Erlewine, who's amazing, do a video. He's in a shop with like $50,000 worth of tools, and the guy's been doing this for 50 years. So when you watch it, all I get from it is, if you've been doing it for 50 years and you have $50,000 worth of tools, you can do it too. I said I was trying to portray a different idea, right? Because what I was really effectively doing at the time, which I wasn't really seeking to do this, but it was what's happening was I was taking all the repairs that I thought people shouldn't have to pay me to do and teaching them how to do them, how they could do them themselves. Because at the time, you got to understand, when I started my YouTube channel, I was still fully repairing guitars. I still fully repaired guitars until 2020. Okay, so I had a middle of 2020. If it wasn't for COVID, I'd still be repairing guitars to this day. Okay, I stopped repairing guitars when the state of Arizona shut down, flattened the curve, and they told me basically, like everybody, we couldn't come in contact with people. And then what happened was I did what a lot of people did. I pivoted even more at that time, and then I decided when it came back and I could do repairs again, I had already pivoted into a different income, okay, from something else. So the point I'm trying to make is I said I was just trying to teach people, you don't have to come to me for a silly thing like just that, if your nut slots are down too deep, you can just shim them up, or you can use baking soda and glue and you can fix them. So to answer your question, why would somebody do that? Well, it's because it's easier, right? And you're saying it's easy to cut a nut. I think it's super easy to cut a nut. However, if you don't have the tools, you have to do a workaround. I think that mentality comes from what we used to call shade tree mechanics growing up, which is definitely something I was. Shade tree mechanic is someone who worked on their car under the shade of a tree, right? You would go to AutoZone, and you're too broke. If you're lucky, you got the Chilton manual, you got the manual for your car. If not, you just went in there and kind of looked real quick at the pages. There was no Googling anything, right? And then you went in and you would buy the part from AutoZone, and then you would try to do it with the tools you had. You're always figuring some workaround because you didn't have the right torque wrench or you didn't have the right things because, and again, there, and it sounds crazy, but there was no Harbor Freight even. There was no way to get a tool super cheap. To get tools cheap, you would go to pawn shops and then, and then you'd buy used tools or go, oh man, yard sales. Those are great when you go to yard sales and then all of a sudden somebody have a couple of tools there and you're like, I always need that. But it was really tough to justify buying one tool, to basically take, your timing belt off or do something like that. This is one tool for this. And it's like, it's going to cost you $30-$40 for this tool just to do this job. So if you couldn't borrow it, you'd have to find a way around it. And so I kind of approached the repair videos that way. What could you do with the least amount of tools? Which is why, so now when I do the deep dives, I say these are the tools we're going to use. Even though we don't demonstrate every tool in every video, the reason I show you that is I want you to know that no matter what you see in the video, those are the only tools I've used in that entire video. So that's all you have to have. So everything I could do in that video was done with those tools and no more. And I think that's because, again, I think for me, visually, I'm a visual learner. So to me, that visually helps me. I go, oh, okay, so if I have those things, I can do this? Yes. Oh, good. And so I think that's a great question that you asked, and I see your point, but it's again, how do you do the most with the least? Somebody says Western Auto. Yeah. Let's see. Indie OG says, don't buy a used torque wrench though. Yeah. Well, when there was a different time, you would use whatever you got. You didn't even know. You didn't know. I remember not knowing. You just didn't know. You couldn't check anything. That's why I said I love YouTube. I'm an absolute love of YouTube. I don't care about AI. I don't care about anything else. I think YouTube, I don't care about Instagram. I really don't. I don't care about any of this stuff. YouTube to me has been, dude, the idea that people who do a job for a living go out there and show you exactly what they do or a quick trick on something is just, to me, is amazing. I'm constantly on there. It was great. I once saved myself a lot of pain and suffering. I had a thing go wrong on my AC unit, and I had, when I was in the Army, you would have to discharge capacitors, and those capacitors on those AC units, they have a lot of kick, and so I knew that you had to cut the power and you had to discharge them. And I'll never forget this. There was an AC guy on YouTube, and he had a quick little video. It was 3 minutes, and he's like, how to do it. And I go, okay, I already know how to do it. I'll watch it. And when he did it, there was a one step that I didn't think of. And he's like, hey, you got to make sure you do this. He's like, go back, turn it back on, then turn it back off. And I was like, oh, okay. And I did it. And I remember thinking, he's like, otherwise it's gonna hurt your teeth. And I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of juice. I don't want that today. So I love videos like that. So, okay, I think we covered the show today. If you guys are interested in the Royalist pedal, that video will be out very soon. It's edited. It'll be on the second channel. If you guys haven't checked out the second channel, there'll be a link down below. We're about to hit 40,000 subscribers on that. We're thinking about doing a giveaway at 50,000 subscribers. So something to keep in mind. You have to just be subscribed to be in the giveaway. I'll let you know. It's going to be a guitar, of course. We'll give away a guitar. And also something else that's really cool is some people were asking, what is the difference between the bonus podcast that when you're a patron, you support this channel for $5, and then if you pay the it's $115 a year. It's $19 a month, but that's if you pay by the month. If you pay for the year, it's like $9 a month. It's half off. What is the difference in the clinic? So something fun for you guys to know: if you go to the link to the Patreon link down below, you can become a free patron. This is not a free trial. Don't click any free trials. I don't think we have any free trials, but don't click that. It will be 100% free. No tricks. You can be free forever and ever and ever. If you become a free patron, you can watch a full 2-hour live clinic. You can watch the clinic and you can see what it's like. You don't have to pay anything for it. You get to check it out. If you end up liking it and you want to pay and become the mid-tier patron and get monthly clinics and also see the catalog of them and plus the other stuff, there's a discount code also in Patreon that shows you how to get 50% off. You could choose not to or not to, but the question, what we got emails about, what we're trying to do is solve a problem, which is a lot of people are emailing us. What is the difference between these two levels? So we're just put the video out. You guys can watch it. All you have to do is become a free patron. You can unpatron after you watch the video. I could, whatever makes you happy. I don't know. I will tell you that if you stay being a free patron, what you get is we notify you when videos drop in case YouTube didn't notify you. And also I post some bonus things there, but don't expect a lot. It is free. Okay. But just let you know. But if you have those who want to check out the live clinic, you can check it out. Okay. And it's the most recent one. So it's kind of cool. All right. On that note, I want to thank the moderators for making the show possible and working. I want to thank you guys for all hanging out, especially to the end, because you guys are awesome. And I want to thank everybody who saw the Jackson video. If you haven't, this week's video is about that vintage Jackson. Some really cool stuff, including some really cool tech tip stuff in there. And as always, I want to thank you guys for your time and know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast.